Settle in. I dug up 4 of the messed up Reddit confessions on the internet for you. Like, subscribe, and let's dive in. I 26F keep getting delivery confirmation texts for things I never ordered, and each one describes exactly how I felt that day. Something had already gone wrong before she opened her eyes. So I need to talk about this because I have been sitting on it for almost a week and it is starting to eat at me. My name is Paige. I am 26, female, and I work as a dental hygienist. I live in a basement studio in my family's house with my younger sister Ren, who is 22. It is not glamorous, but it is ours. My coworker Darla is basically my best friend, and the only person I have told any of this to so far. I should also say up front that I have generalized anxiety disorder. It is not some dramatic thing, it is just there, like background noise that occasionally turns up the volume. Some mornings I wake up and the dread is already loaded before I am even fully conscious, like my brain queued it overnight. Last Tuesday was one of those mornings. I had not opened my eyes yet, and I already knew the day was going to sit heavy on my chest. I lay there for a while, just letting it settle, not fighting it. You learn not to fight it. I had not spoken to anyone, had not checked my phone, had not even put my feet on the floor yet. 7:43 in the morning. 10 minutes before she said a single word to anyone. At 7:43, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I figured it was a shift reminder, or Darla sending me something dumb before clocking in. But it was a text from a number I did not recognize, formatted like a delivery confirmation. The sender name said Halcyon Parcel Co. I have never heard of them. The text read, "Your order of 1 Quiet Dread has been delivered. Delivery confirmed that," and then an address I did not recognize. Some street in another state. I stared at it. I had not ordered anything. I do not even shop online much. But that phrase, 1 Quiet Dread, I could not stop looking at it. Because that was it. That was exactly what I had been lying there feeling. Not panic, not sadness, not anything loud. Just 1 quiet dread, sitting on my ribs like a cat that would not move. I screenshotted it. My thumb hovered over delete for a few seconds, but I could not do it. Something about how precisely it named the thing I had not even named for myself, yet made me put the phone down instead. I told myself it was spam, some algorithm, some coincidence. But I have not deleted that screenshot, and I keep opening it at night, reading it again, like I am waiting for the words to rearrange into something that makes more sense. They have not. The text did not stop. Over the next week and a half, 4 more came in, always from Halcyon Parcel Co., always delivered to that same address I did not recognize, always worded like I was receiving a package, except the package was whatever I had been feeling that day. The second one arrived on a Thursday, after Darla and I had a weird moment at the office. A patient had complained about something stupid, and I made a joke to cut the tension, and Darla just looked at me, flat, like I had said the wrong thing. I swallowed whatever I was about to say next, and we did not talk for the rest of the shift. That evening, your order of 1 swallowed apology has been delivered. The third came on a Sunday night, when I was lying in bed thinking about my mom. Sheila lives 2 states away. We only reconnected about a year ago, after nearly a decade of barely speaking. I do not talk about why. That night I missed her in a way that felt homeless, like the missing itself had nowhere to land. The text came at 11:14. Your order of 1 homesickness without a home has been delivered. I tried replying, nothing went through. I called the number and got a disconnected tone. I googled Halcyon Parcel Co. and got 0 results, not even a scam listing, nothing. Whoever it was had been close enough to read her without a word. I told Darla about it at work, trying to make it sound ridiculous, like, "Can you believe this weird spam I keep getting?" She did not laugh. She set down her scaler and looked at me and said, "Paige, is someone watching you?" I did not have an answer. I started paying more attention when I was home, checking the windows in the basement studio, looking at my phone settings, scanning for anything out of place. But there was nothing. Ren was just Ren, padding around upstairs, leaving me a plate if she cooked, knocking softly before coming down. She has always been like that, quiet, present, never pushy. I did not suspect her for a second. Why would I? She is my little sister. I started thinking maybe my phone was compromised. Maybe someone had installed something on it remotely. The idea of a stranger reading my emotions through data felt more plausible than any alternative. It felt technological, distant, solvable. I pulled up the delivery address from the screenshots and stared at it again. Some street in a city I could not place. I decided I was going to trace it. I needed to know where those deliveries were supposedly going, because whoever set this up wanted me to see that address. And I was starting to think that was the point. 3 days of silence. Then her new phone buzzed. I searched the delivery address, plugged the whole thing into every search I could think of. All I got back was a residential listing in another state. A house, not a business, not a warehouse. No connection to any shipping company. Darla said I should file a police report, but I kept imagining how that conversation would go. Someone is texting me about my feelings, officer. They are describing my emotions in fake shipping confirmations. I could not even say it out loud without feeling stupid. So instead, I changed my phone number. Went to the carrier store on my lunch break, paid the fee, got a new number, told only Darla and Ren. And for 3 days it worked. Nothing came through. No Halcyon Parcel Co. No mysterious deliveries. I started sleeping a little better. I stopped checking my phone every time it vibrated. I thought maybe whoever it was only had my old number, and now they were cut off. On the morning of the 4th day, I woke up, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to relief. Not happiness, just the absence of the weight. I lay there and actually noticed it. Oh, this is what it feels like when the dread does not show up first. That thought lasted about 40 minutes. The address had been waiting for her to look closer. The text came at 8:22. New number. Same format. Halcyon Parcel Co. Your order of one relief that learned it was premature has been delivered. Same address. I sat on the edge of my bed and my hands were shaking. I thought about telling Ren, but she is 22 and she worries quietly. The kind of worrying that sits behind her eyes and never comes out as words. I did not want to put this on her. I pulled up the address again and really looked at it this time. The street name. I had been skimming past it for weeks, but now something snagged. It felt familiar, the way a word feels familiar when you cannot remember where you heard it. I could not place it. I called my mom. Not about the texts. I just wanted to hear her voice. Sheila picked up on the 3rd ring, warm like she always is now, but distracted. We talked about nothing for a few minutes, and then she said something offhand about how she had been getting some odd mail lately. I asked what she meant. She paused, then said it was probably nothing and changed the subject to my work schedule. I did not push, but after we hung up, I sat there in the basement studio, staring at that address, and I could feel something tightening in my chest that had nothing to do with my anxiety disorder. This was different. This was the feeling of almost knowing. Nocturnal visitor. The item names are what get me. One quiet dread is not something a random scammer puts in a shipping confirmation. Whoever is sending this knows you on a level that should not be possible through a text message. Dread bread rising. Please tell me you have screenshots. I have seen posts like this disappear, and then the OP comes back weeks later saying the text stopped, and they have no proof it ever happened. Warm sugar water. The fact that they arrive before you have even interacted with anyone is the part I cannot get past. That means whoever is doing this is not reading your social media or overhearing conversations. They are predicting, or they are close enough to sense it. That is the part that made me post this. I could rationalize someone scraping my socials or even watching me through a window. But the first one came while I was still in bed in a basement with no windows. I had not texted anyone. I had not even unlocked my phone yet. Whoever sent it either guessed perfectly or they know something about my patterns that I do not even know about myself. A few days later, Paige came back with an update. I found out who was sending them, and I wish it had been a stranger. I almost did not come back to post this. Some of you told me to check whether the delivery address was somewhere I had lived before, and I wish I had not listened. I finally searched the street name and the city together instead of just a full address, and it hit me like a door swinging into my face. It is my childhood home. The house I grew up in before my parents split, before my mom Sheila moved 2 states away, before everything fell apart and got quietly reassembled into something that only looks like a family if you do not stare too long. I called Sheila. I did not ease into it this time. I asked her directly about the odd mail she had mentioned. She went quiet for so long, I thought the call dropped. Then she told me. Small padded envelopes had been arriving at her house for weeks. Each one contained a handwritten index card. On every card there was a date, a description of how I had been feeling that day, and a single line at the bottom. See? I know her. I asked her to mail them to me. She did. They arrived 4 days later in a flat rate box. I sat on my bed in the basement studio and I opened the first card, and I recognized the handwriting before I finished the first word. It was Ren's, my 22-year-old sister, the person who sleeps 1 floor above me and leaves me a plate when she cooks, and knocks softly before coming downstairs. She had been cataloging me. Every card was dated, every description was accurate. She had been watching me feel things and writing them down and mailing them to our mother like field notes, like proof. Salt and static. Have you asked your sister if she is getting the same text? If you two share an address and this is some kind of data breach, it might be hitting both of you. Hello Sunday. I do not want to freak you out more, but have you checked whether the delivery address is real? Sometimes these scams use addresses tied to the target's past to make it feel personal. Little Moth. This is a solid point. A lot of phishing operations pull old addresses from data broker sites. If the address turns out to be somewhere she used to live, that actually narrows down what kind of database this person has access to. She did not raise her voice. That was the worst part. I put the index cards on the kitchen table and waited for Ren to come downstairs. She saw them and she did not flinch. She sat down across from me and folded her hands like we were about to discuss the electric bill. I asked her why. She told me like she had been rehearsing it. She said that Sheila left us, that Sheila was gone for almost a decade and then came back one day, expecting to just be her mother again, expecting closeness she had not earned, expecting to know me. And Ren said she needed Sheila to understand that she did not know me, that Ren was the one who had been there. Ren was the one who noticed when I was spiraling before I said a word. Ren was the one who knew what my silence sounded like on a bad day, versus a tired day, versus a day when I was pretending to be fine. She said she was proving it, that the cards were evidence. She looked at me and said I was not hurting you, Paige. I was showing her that I see you. She said it like it was generous, like she had been doing me a favor. I kept waiting for the anger to come, but it never did. What came instead was something flatter and harder to name. The feeling of realizing that someone you love has built an entire architecture around you without your knowledge, and they do not think anything is wrong with it. I moved out 6 days later. Darla helped me find a sublet. I got a new phone, a new number. I did not tell Ren where I was going. I did not tell Sheila either. The only person who had my new number was Darla. For 5 days, there was nothing. No texts, no Halcyon Parcel Co. I started to feel like maybe I had outrun it. On the 6th morning, I woke up and my phone buzzed on the mattress beside me. Delivery confirmation. Halcyon Parcel Co. Same format. The item read, "Your order of one grief that has not arrived yet has been delivered." I did not know what it meant. I read it over and over, and I could not connect it to anything I was feeling. I was not grieving. I was tired and disoriented and still adjusting to sleeping somewhere without Ren above me, but grief was not the word. I put the phone down and told myself it was residual. A delayed message, a glitch. 3 days later, my mother called to tell me that the house I grew up in, the delivery address on every single text, had sold. The new owners were gutting it. She cried on the phone, and I sat on the floor of my sublet and I felt it arrive. One grief that had not arrived yet, right on time. Little Moth. I work in logistics. These confirmation texts do not match any carrier format I have seen. The tracking numbers are too short, and there is no sender name field. This is not coming from a real shipping platform. On to the next one. I 36F have been babysitting my roommate's toddler, and he keeps waving at something in the hallway at night. This one was posted to r/nosleep 3 days ago. So I'm Haley, 36, female, freelance graphic designer. About 7 months ago, I moved into a rural cottage with my roommate Darcy. The arrangement works. We split rent on a place neither of us could afford alone, and the isolation is honestly perfect for my work. No distractions, no noise, just me and my laptop and hours of uninterrupted focus. Darcy works 3 overnight shifts a week at a care home about 40 minutes away. On those nights, I watch her 2-year-old son, Milo. It's a good system. Milo goes down easy, usually by 7:30, and I set up in the living room and work until 1 or 2 in the morning. Our nearest neighbor is a solid 15-minute drive down the road. I used to love that. 2 weeks ago, Milo started doing something that unsettled me. On the nights Darcy was at work, I'd hear him babbling on the baby monitor around midnight, sometimes later. When I checked the camera, I'd see him standing at his crib bars in the dark, facing the open doorway into the hallway, waving. Not fussing, not crying, just waving at nothing and talking in that half-language toddlers have. I told myself it was normal. Kids that age have imaginary friends. They talk to shadows, whatever. Then he started telling me about the tall man who smells like outside. She told Darcy. Darcy said toddlers make things up. I brought it up to Darcy and she barely reacted. Said kids do that. Said Milo has a big imagination. Said I was overthinking it. Maybe she was right, but I couldn't shake the feeling. So last Tuesday, one of Darcy's overnight shifts, I propped my laptop up on the floor in the hallway outside Milo's room. Screen dimmed all the way down, webcam recording. I felt stupid doing it. I went to bed on the couch and told myself I'd laugh about it in the morning. I checked the footage before coffee. At 1:40 in the morning, Milo is standing at his crib bars. He's waving. He's saying something I can't make out. And in the window behind his crib, the window that faces our back garden, pressed flat against the glass from the outside, is a man's face. Forehead smashed against the pane, eyes open, completely still, just watching my roommate's son wave at him in the dark. I stared at that frame for I don't know how long. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That window is on the ground floor, and there is nothing but open field behind our cottage for a 1/4 mile. Someone had walked across that field in the middle of the night and stood at a toddler's window and watched him, and Milo waved at him like he'd done it before. Haley rewatched that footage 11 times before she could move. I zoomed in until the pixels fell apart, and it was still there. A grown man's face pressed flat against the glass, forehead and nose white from the pressure, eyes open and locked on the crib. You could see the faintest ring of condensation around his mouth, where his breath was fogging the window. He was that close. And Milo was just standing there, waving at him like he was greeting a friend. I thought about every single night over the past 2 weeks when I'd heard Milo babbling on the monitor. Every time I'd glanced at the camera and seen him standing at the bars, waving at the doorway. The tall man who smells like outside. That wasn't imagination. That was a description. I tried calling Darcy at the care home, but she didn't pick up. She never does mid-shift. I went through the cottage and locked every window, every door, checked them twice. Then I dragged the armchair from the living room into Milo's room and sat in it, with every light on until the sun came up. Milo slept through the whole thing. I just sat there, listening to him breathe and watching that window. Darcy got home at dawn. Haley showed her the screenshot. She didn't react the way you'd expect. She didn't say, "Who is that?" She didn't lean in or squint at the screen. She went completely white, put both hands over her mouth, and started saying, "No, no, no, no," like a reflex. Like something she'd been dreading had finally arrived. I grabbed her arm and asked her if she knew who it was. She pulled away from me and said we need to call the police right now. I asked again. She wouldn't look at me. The police came within the hour, took my statement, watched the footage. 2 officers walked the perimeter and found boot prints in the mud outside Milo's window. Not one set, multiple overlapping sets. Someone had been standing in that exact spot on more than one occasion, looking in at a sleeping child. The officers told us they'd increase patrols, but reminded us that the cottage is 20 minutes from the nearest station. If something happened in real time, we'd be on our own for a while. That night I called my older sister Ries, told her everything. She didn't hesitate. She said, "Get out of that house tonight, Haley. I'm not asking." I told her I couldn't just leave Darcy and Milo alone out here. Not after what I'd seen. But sitting in that cottage after dark, listening to the wind push against the windows, I wasn't sure I believed my own reasons for staying. The camera outside caught nothing. He knew it was there. I bought a cheap wireless security camera and mounted it under the eave, pointing at the yard outside Milo's window. Checked it obsessively for 3 days straight. Nothing. Not a shadow, not a fox, nothing. But Milo kept waving. Every night Darcy worked, I'd hear him on the monitor around midnight or 1 in the morning, standing at the bars, babbling at the hallway. I asked Darcy again about her reaction to the footage, the way she said no, 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 before she even processed what she was looking at. She told me she was just scared, that any mother would react that way. I told her that wasn't a scared reaction, that was a recognition reaction. She shut down, changed the subject, started finding reasons to leave the room whenever I brought it up. I had 2 client deadlines that week, and I missed them both. I couldn't sit in the living room and work anymore. The hallway behind me felt wrong. I started sleeping on the floor in Milo's room, with a blanket and a pillow, right next to the crib. If someone was going to show up at that window again, I wanted to be there. On the 4th night, Milo woke her up. It was around 3 in the morning. I heard him shifting in the crib and opened my eyes. He was standing at the bars again, waving, whispering something I couldn't quite catch. I lay still and watched him. He wasn't looking at the window this time. He was looking past me, toward the open doorway into the hall. Then he said it clearly. "Bye-bye, tall man." I was on my feet before I finished thinking. I ran into the hallway and hit the light switch. Empty. Kitchen. Empty. Living room. Empty. But the mudroom door at the back of the cottage was open about 6 inches. Cold air pouring in. I know I locked that door. I check it every single night before Darcy leaves for her shift. It's part of the routine now. The lock wasn't broken, wasn't forced. It was just unlocked and pulled open. Either Darcy forgot to lock it when she left, or someone has a key, or I'm losing my mind. But Milo said bye-bye, not hello, bye-bye. Whoever was in this hallway had already been here and was leaving. I'm posting this because I don't know what else to do. Someone has been inside this cottage while I sleep, 3 feet from a 2-year-old. The police are 40 minutes away. Darcy is hiding something, and the only witness is a child who thinks the man at his window is a friend. Throwaway lurk. I work in Child Protective Services. The photos in the shed would be enough for an emergency custody review on their own. Please make sure someone has reported this beyond just the arrest. Insomnia scrolls. Darcy lied to you about her own father being dead. That is not just omission. That is a calculated decision to use your presence as a shield without your consent. I am glad you got out. Deleted user X. Kids that age do not make up specific sensory details like smells like outside. They report what they experience. Every single parent and caregiver needs to take that kind of language seriously. I know, and that is what eats at me. He said it more than once. Smells like outside. Smells like dirt. I thought he was talking about the dog we had last year. I even laughed about it to Darcy. She changed the subject every time, and I did not think twice. He was telling me exactly what was happening, and I treated it like toddler nonsense. Haley came back with an update the next day. They found where he was sleeping on our property. I sat Darcy down after reading your comments. One of you asked if she had ever mentioned an ex or a family member she was afraid of, and it hit me like a wall. I looked her in the face and told her I know you recognize that man in the footage, and if you don't tell me the truth right now, I am packing my things tonight. She broke. The man at the window is her biological father. She told me years ago that he had died. He didn't die. He was in prison. He was released 6 months ago, 1 month before we moved into this cottage. Darcy didn't pick this place because it was cheap and quiet. She picked it because it was remote. She was hiding from him. She was hiding from him, and she moved me in here with her and never said a word. I have been sleeping 3 feet from her son on the nights she works, alone in a cottage 20 minutes from the nearest police station, and the whole time her father, a man dangerous enough that she faked his death rather than explain him, was hunting them down. She doesn't know how he found the cottage. She just kept saying, "I thought we were far enough. I thought it was over." I wanted to scream at her, but she was shaking so hard she could barely sit up. I don't know what he did to her when she was younger, but whatever it was left marks I've never been allowed to see. Then Haley checked the tool shed. There's an old shed at the far edge of our property near the tree line. We never use it. The door sticks and it smells like rot. I walked out there that afternoon with my phone in one hand and a kitchen knife in the other. The door was pulled shut but not latched. Inside, I found a sleeping bag rolled against the wall, a pile of empty water bottles, granola bar wrappers, a coat, and on every wall, taped up with masking tape, dozens of printed photos of Milo. Milo at a park, Milo in a shopping cart, Milo on Darcy's hip outside the care home where she works. He had been watching them for months before we ever moved here, and then he followed them. He'd been living on our property, sleeping 50 yards from our back door, coming to the window at night to watch his grandson through the glass. And the only person in the house who knew he was there was a 2-year-old who called him the tall man and waved. The police came back within the hour. I'm writing this from my sister Ries's car. Cedar Hollow Kid. Rural properties are terrifying for exactly this reason. There are always outbuildings, tree lines, places someone could set up camp for weeks and you would never know. I grew up on a farm, and we found a drifter living in our hay barn for an entire summer once. Nocturnal RN. The fact that Darcy knew her father was out, and still let you babysit Milo alone at night without telling you anything, is genuinely unforgivable. You deserve to know the risk you were taking. Cedar Hollow Kid. This is the part I keep coming back to. Darcy was not just hiding from her father, she was hiding behind Haley. She picked a roommate who would be home on the nights she was not. That is not coincidence. That is strategy. The police found him before Haley even finished unpacking at Ries's place. They arrested Darcy's father on the property that same evening. He was in the shed when they got there, just sitting on the sleeping bag, with the photos of Milo all around him, like some kind of shrine. He didn't run. Forensics went through the cottage afterward and confirmed he had entered through the mudroom door on at least 2 separate occasions, while Darcy and I and Milo were all asleep inside. Twice that they could prove, probably more. We broke the lease the next day. I didn't even go back to pack properly. Ries drove down and we threw everything into garbage bags and loaded her car in under an hour. I'm at Ries's house now, about 3 hours north. It's a normal street with neighbors on both sides and streetlights, and I still check every window before I sit down. Darcy texts me. She and Milo are in a domestic violence shelter in a city I'm not going to name. She keeps saying she's sorry. She keeps saying she thought the distance would be enough, that she never wanted to put me in danger, that she was just trying to protect her son. I believe her. I do. But she made that choice for me without telling me. She moved me into a hiding place and let me think it was just a cheap cottage with good light for my design work. She watched me laugh off her son's warnings, and she said nothing. Haley left one last detail. The morning I left the cottage for the last time, I was carrying a box out to Ries's car, and Milo was in his car seat, in Darcy's back seat, buckled in and ready to go. I leaned in to say goodbye to him, because despite everything, that kid still felt like family to me. He grabbed my hand with both of his, and looked at me with those huge serious eyes, and said, "The tall man said he's gonna find us at the new house too." I pulled back and looked at Darcy. She was already crying. I don't know if a 2-year-old can invent something like that. I don't know if Darcy's father actually spoke to Milo through that window on one of those nights, or if Milo just absorbed the fear in the house and turned it into words the way kids do. But I hear it every night when I'm trying to fall asleep in Ries's guest room. The new house too. He's in custody. I know he's in custody, but I leave the hallway light on anyway, and I don't think I'm going to stop. Mickey draws. As a fellow freelancer who works from home alone a lot, this is the story that is going to make me check every window lock tonight. The detail about his face pressed flat against the glass made my stomach drop. On to the next one. I, 36 female, went to a wellness retreat my roommate recommended, and they won't give my phone back because it's stored offsite. This was posted 3 days ago on r/let's not meet. I need to get this down while it's still fresh. I'm a 36-year-old paralegal. I live in a condo with 2 roommates, one of them being Gwen, who I've known for about 4 years now. I work under a supervising attorney named Mr. Hargrove, and if you've ever worked in litigation support, you know what that means. 14-hour days during filing season, eating lunch over your keyboard, dreaming about docket numbers. By last month, I was running on fumes. Gwen had been talking up this digital detox retreat in the Catskills since the previous winter. She called it life-changing, said she'd gone herself and came back feeling like a new person. She was specific about the place, Briarwood Wellness Center, and even specific about the weekend. She helped me book it. I drove up on a Friday afternoon. The property was beautiful, deep in the trees, a converted estate with these long stone buildings. Check-in was smooth. They collected phones at the front desk, sealed them in individual pouches with your name on a label. I expected that. It was advertised. They handed me a stack of paperwork and I signed everything, which I know sounds insane for a paralegal, but I was exhausted, and it felt like standard liability waivers. Day 1 was genuinely nice. No screens, group yoga, long walks. I slept 9 hours straight for the first time in months. Then came day 2. Saturday morning, a staff member found me at breakfast and said the front desk had received 3 calls from a law office asking for me, Mr. Hargrove's office. An emergency motion had come in and they needed me. I told the staff member I understood and asked to have my phone back so I could handle it. She smiled and said she'd check with the coordinator. 20 minutes later, the retreat coordinator, a woman named Dana, sat me down in her office. She explained that all collected devices had been transported Friday evening to a secure storage facility about 30 miles south. Standard protocol, she said. They could not be returned until checkout on Sunday. I told her I needed to leave Saturday evening. That's when she pulled up the waiver I'd signed. Page 11, paragraph 4. Early departure before the scheduled checkout date forfeits custody of the stored device and subjects the participant to a retrieval processing fee of $400, payable exclusively via bank transfer. I asked if I could pay it right now and go. Dana said bank transfers require their finance office, which operates Monday through Friday, and there's no wire transfer capability on the property, no ATM, no card reader for that purpose. I sat there doing the math in my head. No phone, no way to pay the fee, no way to contact anyone directly, 30 miles from my device, and checkout wasn't until Sunday afternoon. I'm a paralegal. I read contracts for a living, and I signed one that locked me in place. Aaron wasn't ready to give in. I spent the rest of Saturday morning trying every angle I could think of. I found Dana again after lunch and explained that this wasn't about wanting to check Instagram. There was an active case, a filing deadline, and if I missed it, real people would face real consequences. She listened with this patient, tilted head expression and then said something I will never forget. She said, "Your nervous system is telling you to flee, and that is exactly why you need to stay." It was rehearsed, the cadence, the pause before, exactly. She had said that sentence hundreds of times. I looked around the common room after that and started actually paying attention to the other guests. Some of them were not weekend visitors. A woman named Phoebe told me over tea that she had originally come for 3 days and was now on week 2. She said it like it was a good thing. During the afternoon session, the staff made an announcement. Anyone willing to extend their stay past Sunday checkout would receive a complimentary upgrade to a private cabin, plus 2 free additional nights and a one-on-one session with the lead facilitator. 2 guests raised their hands immediately. They looked thrilled. I started cataloging things in my head, the way I do with case files. No landline. No way out on foot. After dinner, I went looking for a phone, a landline, a desk phone, anything hardwired. There was nothing. The front desk had a computer terminal, but it faced the wall behind the counter, and I never saw a staff member step away from it. I decided to take a walk toward the main road. I made it maybe 10 minutes down a gravel path before a staff member appeared beside me. A tall guy named Joel, who had materialized out of nowhere. He said the property boundary was fenced for wildlife management and that guests weren't permitted past the tree line for liability reasons. He walked me back, gently, smiling the whole time. That night, I lay in bed running through everything. Gwen had not just recommended this place. She had picked the exact weekend, helped me fill out the registration, even offered to drive me up before I said I'd rather go alone. She was specific in a way that felt caring at the time, but now felt like choreography. I told myself it was coincidence. I had to believe that for now, or I was going to lose it. My sister Tessa had been against this trip from the start. She said it sounded like a scam, that any place that takes your phone on arrival has something to hide. I remember rolling my eyes at her. I decided I would play along, act calm, smile at the yoga sessions, and wait for an opening. She decided to look closer. Sunday morning, I smiled through the group breathwork session like everyone else. I clapped when Dana announced that 4 more guests had chosen to extend. I ate my quinoa bowl and nodded along when Phoebe told me about her breakthrough during last night's journaling circle. Then, during the free period after lunch, I wandered. The staff cabins sit behind the main lodge, 3 small wooden buildings connected by a covered walkway. The door to the first one was propped open with a boot. I glanced inside like I was just passing through. There were clipboards hanging on the wall beside a corkboard, printed schedules with guest names and dates going back months. Not weeks, months. Some names had colored dots beside them. On a whiteboard behind a desk, I could read 2 columns. The left one said weekend intake, and the right one said conversion rate. There were percentages written in dry erase marker. I kept walking before anyone saw me. A few minutes later, I was sitting on a bench near the garden when I heard 2 staff members on the other side of the hedge. One of them said something about the Sunday pivot and how most guests convert by Sunday afternoon if you time the cabin upgrade offer right. The other one laughed and said this cohort was running ahead of schedule. Nobody here felt trapped. That was the worst part. I found the long-term guest I'd noticed earlier, a woman in her 50s who always wore the same green shawl. Her name was Margot. I asked her casually how long she'd been at Briarwood. She told me she had come for a weekend 6 months ago. She said she woke up on that first Sunday morning and felt something she hadn't felt in years, and she just never left. She wasn't sad when she said it. She wasn't glazed over or robotic. She was warm and present, and she spoke about the place the way people talk about the home they always wanted. That scared me more than anything Dana had done, because if Margot is a prisoner, she is the happiest prisoner I have ever seen. And I started wondering if maybe I was the one with the problem. Maybe I was so wired from work that I couldn't recognize peace when it was being offered to me. That thought lasted about 30 seconds. Then I remembered the $400 fee, the fence, Joel walking me back from the tree line, the phones 30 miles away in a facility nobody would name. I wasn't overreacting. I needed to get inside that staff cabin when no one was around, and dinner service was my window. Night Owl Danny. The fact that Gwen had your stuff boxed before you even got home means she knew the timeline. She wasn't hoping you'd stay. She was told you would. Quiet comfort. Please check whether any of those 11 people have been reported missing. Even one hit would change this from a civil complaint to something much bigger. Sparrow 9. The scariest part is Gwen's note. I'm so proud of you. She thinks she did something beautiful. You can't reason with that. That's exactly what makes this so hard. She's still texting me daily, sending me meditation prompts, and telling me she's holding space for my resistance. She doesn't sound angry or defensive. She sounds like a mother whose kid won't eat vegetables. I lived with this woman for 2 years, and I genuinely do not know when she became this person, or if she always was, and I just didn't see it. A few days later, Aaron came back with an update. Gwen is still texting me like nothing happened. I'm safe. I'm at my sister Tessa's place. But I need to finish telling you what I found because it changes everything about Gwen. Saturday night, during dinner service, every staff member was in the main hall, supervising the communal meal. I walked to the staff cabins. The door with the boob propping it open was still unlocked. I went inside and started going through the desk. In the second drawer, I found a 3-ring binder with a laminated cover labeled Referral Milestone Tracker. I opened it, and the first page was a list of names, organized by referring participant. I found Gwen's section, her full legal name printed at the top. Below it were 11 entries, 11 people she had referred to Briarwood over 22 months. Each entry had a name, an arrival date, and the status column. I read every single line. Not one of them said departed. Not one said completed program. Every single entry read, transition to residential. 11 people. I turned to the next page and found my own name. My arrival date was correct. My status was already filled in. It said weekend to residential, pending. I put the binder back exactly where I found it and walked to dinner with my hands shaking. There was no villain in this story. That was the hardest part. Legal beagle. Paralegal here too. That waiver clause about forfeiting your device is almost certainly unenforceable. But they're banking on people not knowing that, especially when they can't Google anything. Redacted user. 11 referrals and nobody came back to their normal life? That's not a retreat, that's a pipeline. Mossy Creek hiker. The LLC shell game confirms it. Legitimate retreats don't dissolve their business entity every few months. This has the exact structure of operations that have been flagged in other states. Recruit through personal networks, isolate from communication, make leaving logistically painful enough that staying feels easier. Sunday morning, dawn meditation. Every guest and every staff member gathered in the main hall, eyes closed, lights low. I had been awake since 4, fully dressed under my blanket, waiting. When the chanting started, I slipped out the side door of my cabin and walked straight for the tree line. I did not take the gravel path. I went through the brush, branches catching my jacket, until I hit the fence Joe had mentioned. It was chest-high cattle wire, not the security barrier they implied. I climbed over it in about 10 seconds. I walked along the road for maybe 40 minutes before a pickup truck slowed down. The driver was an older man, heading to town for feed. He dropped me at a gas station. I found a payphone and called Tessa Collect. She picked up on the second ring. She didn't ask questions. She said I'm coming, and she drove 3 hours to get me. When we got back to the condo that evening, my bedroom door was closed. I opened it, and everything I owned had been packed into neat plastic storage bins, stacked against the walls. My bed was stripped. My closet was empty. Taped to the door was a note in Gwen's handwriting. It said, "Your new room at Briarwood is ready whenever you are. I'm so proud of you." I moved in with Tessa that night. Gwen had been ready for this before Aaron even left. On Monday, I filed a complaint with the State Attorney General's office. I gave them everything: the waiver language, the fee structure, the binder, the conversion rate whiteboard, Margot, Phoebe, all of it. The investigator pulled the business registration while I was still on the phone. The LLC that operated Briarwood Wellness Center had dissolved 3 days before I checked in. The property is now listed under a different company name, running what appears to be the exact same program, with the same staff photos on a new website. I never got my phone back. I bought a new one. Gwen is still texting me, every day. Cheerful messages, meditation prompts, links to articles about the healing power of surrender. She asked me yesterday if I wanted to grab dinner this week. like nothing happened, like she didn't pack my entire life into bins while I was climbing over a fence in the Catskills at dawn. I have not responded to a single message. I don't think she's evil. I think she believes with her whole heart that she was saving me. And that is the part I cannot stop thinking about. That the person who tried to erase my life did it out of love. Mossy Creek Hiker. I looked up Briarwood Catskills, and there are 3 LLCs registered to the same agent with slightly different names. They just keep reshuffling. On to the next one. My identical twin has been going by a different name for 2 years and telling everyone she is an only child. She just mailed me a box of photos, and now I think I understand why. Posted 6 months ago by throwaway M copy on r/off my chest. I am 37, female, and I work as a copywriter from home in a small town where nothing ever happens. I live with my partner Owen. I have, or had, an identical twin sister named Claire. 2 years ago, Claire legally changed her name to Nadia. She did not tell me first. I found out through a cousin who mentioned her casually at Thanksgiving, like it was something I already knew. That was bad enough, but then the mutual friends started calling. One by one, people we had grown up with reached out to ask me why Nadia, they were already using her new name, had told them she was an only child. Not estranged from a sibling, not distant, an only child. She had rewritten me out of her life completely. Our mother Diane passed away 3 years ago, lung cancer, fast and merciless. Claire took it harder than I did, or at least differently. She stopped returning my calls. She moved 2 states over without telling me. I assumed the name change and the only child story were part of the grief. People do strange things when they lose a parent. I told myself she would come back around eventually. Then about 3 weeks ago, a package showed up at my door. No note inside, just a box of old family photos. The return address was Claire's. The photos were familiar. That was a problem. I sat on the living room floor and spread them out. A beach trip. I remember that trip. I got sunburned so badly, my shoulders peeled for a week. I remember the saltwater taffy from the boardwalk shop, the specific flavor, watermelon. A school recital where I played the recorder and forgot the second verse. Matching Halloween costumes. Me and Claire's Dalmatians. Our mom painting the spots on our faces with eyeliner. 6 photos. 6 of my most vivid childhood memories. But the second girl in these photos is not me. The face is close. God, it is close. But there is a small birthmark on her left temple. A dark little oval, right above the hairline. I do not have that birthmark. I have never had that birthmark. I remember the peeling sunburn. I remember the taste of watermelon taffy. I remember being scared before the recital. These memories feel mine. They feel lived in and worn soft from years of remembering. But the photos say I was not there. I keep staring at that birthmark, and I cannot make it make sense. Either my childhood happened to someone else, or someone else's childhood was given to me. I do not know which possibility is worse. Emily kept going. The next morning, I called in sick on a deadline for the first time in 4 years. I sat at my desk, where I normally write copy, and instead pulled out every photo album our mother Diane had given me over the years. Shoeboxes, envelopes, a leather-bound album she made for my 30th birthday. I went through them one by one, with the mailed photos spread beside me for comparison. I was looking for the birthmark. Some photos had it, some did not. In at least half of them, I genuinely could not tell which girl was me and which was Claire. We were told our whole lives that we were identical, born 4 minutes apart at the same hospital. I believed it the way you believe gravity. I called Claire, Nadia, whatever she is now. No answer. I texted her 3 times. Nothing. By the time Owen got home that evening, I had covered the entire kitchen table with photographs sorted into 3 piles. Definitely me, definitely not me, and I have no idea. He stood in the doorway and asked what was going on, and I tried to explain it. I heard myself talking, and I sounded unhinged. Some memories do not survive being questioned. I told Owen about the beach trip, the sunburn, the watermelon taffy. I told him about the recital and the Halloween Dalmatians. He listened. He did not interrupt. When I finished, he asked the one question I had been avoiding. Are you sure those memories are yours? And the honest answer is, I do not know anymore. Our mother told stories constantly. She would retell the same childhood moments at every holiday, every birthday dinner. She had a way of telling them so vividly that you could taste them. I am starting to wonder if she told them so many times that they just became mine. If she handed me someone else's life in pieces, story by story, year after year, until I could not tell the difference. The disorientation is hard to describe. It is like reaching for a wall in the dark and finding nothing there. I mentioned to Owen that I have never actually seen my own birth certificate. Not once. I never needed to. Diane handled all the paperwork, the school enrollments, everything. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said, maybe we should check the storage unit where we put her things after she passed. I am driving out there tomorrow morning. I need to know what is real. Only one name was in that storage unit. I drove out there alone. Owen offered to come, but I told him I needed to do this by myself. The unit is about 40 minutes outside of town. One of those places with the orange roll-up doors and a padlock you always forget the combination to. I spent 3 hours going through our mother's things. Tax returns going back to the 90s. Stacks of greeting cards she never threw away. Recipe books with her handwriting in the margins. I found Claire's birth certificate in a manila envelope labeled Important Documents. Claire Marie Whitfield, born March 11th, 1989. I kept digging. I went through every envelope, every folder, every box. There was no birth certificate for me. Not a copy, not an original, nothing. I drove home with my hands shaking on the wheel. When I got back, I tried Claire again. She picked up on the second ring. I started talking and she cut me off. All she said was, "Check the lining of the box." Then she hung up. I sat there holding the phone for a full minute before I understood what she meant. She had hidden something inside the package itself. I went to my home office, where I had left the mailing box from Claire. I picked it up and turned it over. It felt heavier than an empty box should. I ran my fingers along the bottom and the sides. The cardboard was doubled. There were 2 layers, sealed together at the edges, and something flat was pressed between them. I could feel it give slightly when I pushed. I have not opened it. I am sitting on the floor of my office right now, writing this with the box in my lap, and I am afraid to tear it open. I keep thinking about all those photos of the girl with the birthmark. I keep thinking about how Diane told the same stories over and over until I could smell the sunscreen and taste the taffy. I keep thinking about how there is no birth certificate with my name on it anywhere in my dead mother's belongings. I posted here because I need someone, anyone, to tell me I am not losing my mind. That there is an explanation for this that does not mean what I think it means. Please. Therapy first always. This is not something Reddit can solve. You need a therapist and probably a lawyer. What you are describing is an identity crisis with potential legal implications, and you deserve professional support, not comment section speculation. Morning glory. I keep going back and forth on Claire. She mailed you a box instead of sitting you down and telling you the truth to your face. That is either the most cowardly thing I have ever heard or the most protective. I genuinely cannot decide. Soft landing. I have to ask this gently. Have you ever taken a DNA test? Even one of the consumer ones? No, and I'm terrified too, because right now I can still tell myself there is some other explanation. The second I spit in a tube, that door closes, and whatever is on the other side of it becomes permanent. 2 weeks later, she came back with an update. She finally told me everything, and I wish she had kept lying. It has been about 2 weeks since my original post. I tore open the lining of the box. My hands were shaking so badly I had to use a kitchen knife to get through the glue. Inside were letters. A bundle of them, maybe 15 or 20, held together with a rubber band. They were correspondence between our mother Diane and a woman named Gail, postmarked from another state. The earliest one was dated the year I was born. The latest was from about 12 years ago. I will not reproduce them here, but I will tell you what they say. Gail came to visit Diane when they were both young. She brought an infant with her. She left without the baby. She simply never came back for me. Diane kept me. No adoption agency, no paperwork, no court. She raised me alongside Claire as her twin. She got a sympathetic county clerk to help her fabricate a birth certificate. She built our entire shared childhood out of rehearsed stories and carefully staged photographs. Every bedtime retelling, every holiday memory, she repeated until it became muscle memory. That was not nostalgia. That was maintenance. She was keeping the lie alive, one story at a time. Claire had known the whole time. Claire found these letters in Diane's things after the funeral. She read them alone in our dead mother's house, and she did not tell me. She sat with that knowledge for months before she changed her name and moved away. I was so angry when I first understood this. I called her and she actually answered, and I asked her why she did not just tell me. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Because if I told you, I would be the one who took your life away from you, and I could not do that." She said she changed her name because she could not keep being Claire, the twin, the other half of a story that was fabricated. She was not having a breakdown. She was not grieving in some dramatic, irrational way. She was the only living person who knew the truth, and she chose to dismantle her own identity rather than destroy mine. I do not know if that is mercy or cowardice or love or all three at once. I do not know what I am supposed to do with any of this. I am not Claire's twin. I am not Diane's daughter. I do not know whose daughter I am. Claire did not abandon you. She removed herself from the only framework she had for relating to you, because that framework was a lie. That is not cruelty. That is someone drowning. Diane is the scariest kind of villain because every single thing she did out of genuine love. She wanted you, she chose you, and she lied to you every day of your life to keep you. I do not know how to hold both of those things at once. Please open that letter. I know it is terrifying, but you deserve to hear whatever she wanted to say, even if it is just more excuses. I actually disagree here. Diane constructed this entire identity without consent. That letter is one more thing she gets to control from beyond the grave. Emily opening it on her own timeline, or never, is the first real choice she gets to make about her own story. She went looking for Gail. The letters had a return address, the same one on every envelope, an address in a state I had never been to. I did not tell Owen what I was doing. I got in the car on a Tuesday morning and I drove. It took about 7 hours. The whole way there, I kept rehearsing what I would say. I am the baby that was left with Diane. I am your daughter. I need you to tell me who I am. The house was a small ranch-style place with a chain-link fence and a garden out front. Someone was living there. I sat in the car for a few minutes and then I walked up and knocked. A young woman answered the door. She was maybe early 20s, and she looked like me. Not exactly, not the way Claire and I were supposed to look alike, but enough. The shape of her jaw, the way she held her shoulders. It was like looking at a photograph of someone from my family that I had never met. She smiled and asked if she could help me. I said I had the wrong house. I walked back to my car. I sat there for 40 minutes watching the front door. Then I drove home. There is one more thing. In the bundle of letters between Diane and Gail, there was a separate envelope. It was addressed to me, to Emily, in Diane's handwriting. It was sealed. She never sent it. I brought it home and left it on the kitchen counter without really thinking about where I put it. Owen found it about a week later. He picked it up and asked me what it was, and I told him everything. The letters, the drive, the girl at the door. He sat down across from me and held the envelope between us and asked if I wanted to open it. I said no. I am not ready. I do not know if I will ever be ready. Diane spent my entire life constructing who I was supposed to be. That letter is the last thing she has left to say, and I am terrified that it will either explain everything or explain nothing, and I do not know which would be worse. So it sits on the kitchen table, still sealed. And I sit here, still figuring out who I am without her narration. That is where I am. That is all I have. Grim toast. I keep thinking about the photos. Your mother staged matching Halloween costumes with another child, just to build the illusion. That level of commitment is genuinely frightening. Half-light porch. The woman who answered the door. You said she looked like you. Have you considered she might be Gail's daughter? Meaning she could be your biological half-sister or even full sibling? Yes. I have thought about almost nothing else since I got back. Owen asked me why I did not say anything to her, and I could not explain it. I think part of me wanted to see if she recognized me first. She did not. That told me enough about whether Gail ever mentioned me. I was not a person she lost. I was a person she left. Nocturnal Wren. The fact that your mother went as far as fabricating a birth certificate means this was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. She planned this for decades. I am so sorry. Idle hands. Owen finding that sealed letter on the kitchen table a week later is the detail that broke me. You are circling it. You know what it probably says. I think you already know. And that is the last story for today.